Morning, guys. We're on Revelation chapter 15, verse 5. And it starts off by saying, and after this, and like we read last time, is that after this being a song, and they sang the song of Moses, all the saints, to give him the glory, to just give him the honor that he has delivered them. And as Moses' song was a deliverance of getting Israel away from the bondage of the Egyptians, Christ is the deliverer of his saints from the bondage of the Antichrist and the system they've come out of. And so they're standing at the end, with the end of the 7 years of tribulation. The bowls are about to be poured out, and we're having a picture of what is the scene of heaven. What is it? John's getting a revelation or a vision into heaven. And he says, after this I looked, and the sanctuary of the tent of witness in heaven was opened. And so he could see right into the inner sanctuary of the temple in heaven. And we have so many pictures of the tabernacle on earth, which becomes the temple, and God's presence, and just the purity, the holiness, the sacrifices that happen there. And so the heavenly tabernacle obviously also symbolizes the very holiest holy place where God abides. And so he's looking into this place. And out of the sanctuary came the 7 angels. The angels, always the ministering spirits, doing the duties of God. And what do these angels look like? And they've got the 7 plagues. And so they carrying the bowls of wrath that are about to be poured out. Remember, we've got the 7 seals, and then we've got the 7 trumpets, and now we're about to go into chapter 16, which is the 7 bowls of wrath. And they're carrying now. So these bowls are coming from this inner place of God's holiness. And how are they clothed? In pure bright linen, with golden sashes around their chests. And just as Christ in chapter 1 had that golden sash, these two are very holy, godly angels that have been set with this purpose to bring that judgment. And it says in verse 7, and one of the 4 living creatures, and now our eyes go from the angels to the 4 living creatures, which we read about in chapter 4 of Revelation, the cherubim, the ones that are guarding right in the beginning of Genesis, when Adam and Eve sinned, they guard that no one will come in and go out. They're these massive, highest sort of creatures that God has made. The seraphim and the cherubim are the top of the order of God, with these eyes and these wings, because they're in God's presence. The wings covering the eyes and covering the feet, because God is so holy. And so one of the 4 living creatures gave to the 7 angels 7 golden bowls full of the wrath of God. So coming from God, cherubim bringing it to the angels, and now this is the final judgment on the earth. And it says, from the wrath of God who lives forever and ever. And there's an eternality to God. He is eternal, and what he will bring will last forever and ever. And that's what makes hell so terrifying, is that it is forever and ever. And the sanctuary was filled with smoke from the glory of God. And we see so many pictures in the Old Testament of the smoke, the cloud, the pillar that comes onto the sanctuary of God. And that was a symbol of God's presence. And when that smoke left, it was God's presence leaving. And so again, we see all these pictures coming through from the Old Testament, referring to God's presence. And there's the smoke, and it goes on to say, and no one could enter the sanctuary until the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were finished. The high priest used to come in once a year to the inner sanctuary to make intercession for the people. But now the judgment has been called. No one can come and intercede. No one can stop this judgment that is about to be poured out. And these bowls weren't like a little spout or that you could pour out slowly. They're quite a shallow bowl that as they poured, it would come quickly. And so these judgments are guaranteed. There's no one that's going to stop this. It's coming from God's throne. It's coming with the use of God's most powerful creatures, and nothing's going to stand in the way. of this devastation that's going to be outleashed. And so that's a terrifying thought, is that when God's wrath is poured out on someone, there is nothing that can stand in its way. And so it's so important that even today we are right with the God that we serve. So I trust you have a good day. God bless.